Welcome to this presentation on how to get hired at top tech companies like Amazon and Google. I am so delighted that you're here. If you're here live with me, type in the chat room to let me know what's your profession and your dream company. I want to give a shout out and thank you to torontojobs.ca for organizing this virtual tech career conference and having me as a speaker. So I'm Diana YK Chan. I'm a former recruiter turned career coach, speaker, and trainer at My Market Ability. I'm an expert at helping you differentiate your unique brand value, mastering your messages, networking, and selling yourself with confidence. I work with mid to senior level professionals and executives to find a meaningful career, navigate change, and get hired, and differentiate as top talent to get hired and earn more. I've helped thousands of clients to get hired into top financial services firms, top consulting firms, top tech companies, startups as well. Some of the companies I've helped clients get hired to include Amazon, Apple, Google, Shopify, Salesforce, SaaS, and many, many more. So I'm really excited to share with you some insights and tips today on how to get hired into these top tech companies. Some of my recent success stories, my latest one was just last week. I have a client who got hired into a tech sales role where she increased her salary by over 90% in a tech sales role. And the week before that, I had another client who got hired into an IT auditing role in one of the hottest tech companies there. And he's actually based in the US, but the opportunity is in Canada. So I'm seeing more and more of these companies where companies are willing to hire people remotely there. Earlier this year, I had another client who got hired into Amazon as a software development manager, where he increased his salary by over 6 figures. So I'm super excited to share with you some tips and insights on how to position yourself for success to get hired into these companies there. So if you're excited, let me know, and let me know that you are here. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through my leadership principle of tips to teach you how to position yourself for success here. So my first L is about lead, learn, and level up. Okay, these top tech companies love to hire leaders. So you really want to showcase your leadership skills. You also want to showcase that you are a curious learner. They love hiring people who love to learn. So for example, one of my clients who recently got into IT auditing, he was in an IT role before, and then he was in auditing the first, and then he moved into like IT auditing in the automotive industry, and he's completing his master's and a master's of analytics, which really showcase while working full time, which really showcase he is a learner, and he totally level up his game here to position himself for success. So if you're looking to get hired into these top companies, you have to bring your A game. You can't be average, can't be mediocre. You have to bring your A game. That's how you're really going to differentiate. You know, just to give you some background, like when I recruited for Google here in Canada, you know, statistically they said it's harder to get into Google than to get into Harvard, and so you really need to differentiate there. Okay, the next is really the E, is you want to elevate your personal brand and your soft skills. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Elevating your personal brand. So this personal brand is all about who you are, what you're known for, what's your unique value. So part of that is you really want to elevate your personal brand to increase your credibility there. Okay. This also include elevating your LinkedIn profile, right? A lot of recruiters use LinkedIn to search and source for talent. Even when I was a recruiter at Google, pretty much all the talent that I found was through LinkedIn or through networking. So you want to really optimize your LinkedIn profile there. The other piece is really elevating your resume. You really want to make it look sharp. From my experience, having seen over 20,000 resumes, most resumes tend to be very responsibilities based. So you really want to elevate your game by showcasing it being very accomplishments oriented and results oriented. One of the things that I've really learned at Google was that you want to quantify to qualify. So this is where you need to really think about, like, what are your unique accomplishments? What was the impact? And what were the results that you contributed to the company there? Okay, so you want to avoid the fluff and give the facts. Now, in terms of the soft skills, studies have shown that 85% of the hiring decision is really based on soft skills. The 15% is the hard skills or the technical skills. So this includes your verbal communication skills, relationship building skills, interpersonal skills. These are things that you really want to level up, because a lot of these top tech companies, oftentimes their hiring process or their interviews is pretty rigorous, and there are multiple rounds of interviews. So your communication skills need to be sharp. You need to be confident. You need to sound that you know what you're talking about as well. So this is where having a coach or working with someone to help you elevate those soft skills can really make a huge difference. Next is the A. So this is about ambitious, adaptable, and above and beyond. So let me talk a little bit about this, right? Top tech companies or top employers, they love hiring people who are achievers and ambitious, people who are like the go-getters. They love that. So this is where when you come, the way you come across, you want to showcase that you're someone who's very driven there. Adaptable, it's all about this adaptability. We're living in a very ever-changing world right now. Adaptability is one of those top skills employers look for. And in a lot of these tech companies, oftentimes things are changing by the minute. So they want to hire people who can adapt to changes really quickly, can pivot, can go into new different roles as well, okay? Above and beyond. This ties back to leveling up as well. So I really want to challenge you to think about what are things that you can do to go above and beyond in your current role of what you do, right? You may have this job, but these are your responsibilities, but how have you maybe proactively identified solutions to the problems? How have you shown an initiative? Go above and beyond to really differentiate there, okay? The next is the D, which is differentiate and be a data-driven problem solver. So a lot of these top tech companies, if you think of like even like Amazon, Shopify, Google, they're really like data-driven companies. And one of the factors, like even when I was at Google, one of the assessment criteria that they look for is general cognitive ability, GCA, which is really your ability to solve problems. And a lot of these companies tend to be very data-driven. So you also want to be strong with like numbers, right? So I'll give you an example. Like at Google, they tend to ask questions that are more like situational or problem solving questions where you need to maybe do some math. So as an example, it could be how many people are on the internet at any given time. And so you want to walk them through your way of thinking and how you would use numbers to solve the problem there. Okay, so it's really important to also work on your numbers, even if you're, let's say, in a product role. I recently supported a client who's a product manager for an e-commerce retailer, and she had multiple rounds of interview, and one of the final round was a case interview. And they gave her a spreadsheet of numbers. And a big part was like really looking at the data and showcasing like what product would you recommend featuring on their website. So to be able to showcase that you are not only that you've got to be comfortable with numbers, but you can also crunch some numbers as well there. Okay, and differentiation is so key. So something I always talk about is you need to differentiate as top talent, right? A lot of these companies, even when I was at Google, they wanted me to look for like the top 5% of the people in the market. So you got to really think differently, really think about what recruiters look for, what employers look for. What are those keywords that they would search for to what would really differentiate you from others? Think about what is your career story, right? So I'll give you an example. Like I recently supported a client interviewing for a Shopify, and one of their signature style of interview is the life story interview. So it's a little different from problem solving questions, but what they're trying to learn is really about you, how you make decisions, and what are the lessons that you've learned throughout your journey there. And it's also a great way to differentiate because they want to understand the choices that you've made, whether you really understand your strengths, your interests, how you've overcome adversity there. Okay, so these are some things that you really want to reflect on. A big part when you want to get into these top tech companies, you need to really have a strategy. You can't just say, well, I want to apply for these companies, but you got to really think about like, what am I going to do to really differentiate, to make myself stand out there? Next is the E, which is excellent experience and expertise relevant to the role. Okay, so this is one of the most important things. Like as a recruiter, like a former recruiter, one of the first things that recruiters really look for is, do you have the role related experience and expertise that's relevant? Right? That's the first thing that they look for. So I'll give an example. Like when I was recruiting at Google, I recruited for majority digital sales role, account coordinators, account managers, account executives, head of sales within digital sales. So one other requirement, what we looked for is one is, do they have experience in sales, but specifically tech sales? And then the other would be, do they have experience in digital sales or digital sales advertising sales? Right. So those are like the things that we would map out or what we look for in an ideal candidate. Now, I know a lot of times people ask me, well, what if I don't have experience in that area? Does that mean I don't have a chance? Well, it really depends. I think this goes back to the expertise that you have, like how deep of expertise in terms of your area of how good you are, essentially. So I had a client recently who worked in the bank in strategy and operations, and she got found by an Amazon recruiter for a strategy operations role within their sales org. And she worked in the banking industry, never worked in tech, but she had some projects that she worked on that was related to transformation and technology. So that's how you could connect the dots that way. So even if you don't have the industry experience, at least you need to showcase that you had really good or deep experience in your own industry there. Okay. So this, I would say, is one of the main evaluation criteria when it comes to pre-screening, when people are looking at your resume or your LinkedIn profile, or when they're talking to you, is do you have that relevant experience and expertise for what they are looking for? That's the first assessment criteria there. The next, as part of this preparation here, is you really want to do rigorous research and showcase that you are results driven. So let's break this down. Rigorous research. This means you really want to understand the company. What is the culture like? Understand their products, understand their business model, like how do they make money? Understand their hiring process, understand the role. You really want to take the time to do this kind of research. So one of my recent client who was going through like intensive interviews with Shopify, like I supported him for 6 weeks ongoing, and he really went above and beyond. Like he listened to their podcasts, studied everything that he could find on the website, analyzed like, the interviewers of who he was meeting with. He had like dozens of pages of notes that he took to really get him into the mind of really understanding the company, the business, and what the people are like there. Okay, so that's the level of research you need to do. And I can tell you from my experience, even from feedback from hiring managers, people can tell whether you are prepared or not. They can tell the way you talk, whether you've done your research, right? The way you provide information, the insights that you provide, they can tell the level of depth of research that you've done there. Okay, so this is so important. If you really want to differentiate, is doing that. I once had a client who was coming from the government industry as a marketing campaign manager for politicians, and he really wanted to become a product manager in tech. He did massive amount of research to really understand the industry and knew like the KPIs, the metrics, knew the trends. And that really showcased not only he was prepared, but it also showcased that he was a quick learner, that he could get up to speed. And at the end of the day, he met with over a dozen people to eventually get an offer, because multiple people also referred him. And he really showcased not only did the research, but he was intelligent enough to show that demonstrate intelligence that he could get up to speed quickly and hit the ground running there. Results driven. So this goes back to thinking back to what you've done. How have you really helped the company? So oftentimes I hear from job seekers saying that, well, that was just part of my job, or these were just my responsibilities. Yes, these are part of your responsibilities, but I want you to think bigger picture, or even think about how your work ties into the overall company's strategic goals and priorities. What are they trying to achieve here? Is it to make more money? Is it to grow a new market, get more new clients? Or if you're, let's say, in operations, is it to save money, cut costs? What is it? What are those KPIs? So think of those metrics there. Right. So if you are in, if you're, let's say, even like a marketing, one of the common metrics could be, say, conversion rates, profit, sales. Even if you do a Google search on, let's say, marketing KPIs and metrics, you're going to find tons of these metrics that you can highlight in your resume. I just worked with an IT specialist last week on overhauling her resume for a role. She originally had like a 6-page resume, and it was mainly responsibilities based. And after taking my course where I really walked her through some guiding questions on how to think about her accomplishments and results, it sounded so much better. She was able to really quantify the work that she does and the impact that she's made, and has made a huge, huge difference. It's like night and day difference there. Okay, so that's something that you want to keep in mind. Next is to share specific examples and impressive stories with structure. Okay, so this is going back to avoid the fluff, to give the facts, right? So what you want to do is when you're going after these roles is you need to understand the role itself. Like, what does it take to really succeed? What are the core competencies? And from there, you want to map out these specific examples that you have that's relevant to those core competencies. And you want to formulate a story. So when I talk about structure, follow a structure of how you're going to answer questions in an interview. So a common one would be the CAR model or STAR model for behavioral questions, right? So context, action, result. You want to set the context of what was the challenge or what was the issue. What was the goal? What were you asked to solve here? Set that stage. What's really important is to be able to set that stage that really provides enough context of the significance of the issue or the challenge that you would face. Okay, so provide that context there. Then through the action, you want to provide step by step, like a method. Step 1, 2, 3, or first, second, third. You want to use that kind of structure. The key here is you want to speak in a way that makes it easy for people to take notes. So when I was at Google, and I know Amazon does this, is that the interviewers are required to take detailed notes of the interview. So if you're all scattered and you ramble a lot, it's really hard for them to take good notes of what you have to say. Okay, so if you can speak in a way that provides some structure, the context, action, result, it's much easier for them not only to take notes, but also for them to debrief when it comes to calibration of who gets to move to the next round there. Okay, so I'll give an example. This was something I worked with one of my clients for his Amazon interview. Before working with me, he was receiving tons of interviews, but not closing. And when he got this interview with Amazon, he decided to hire me. And one of his challenge was he tended to be long-winded and would ramble. So what we did was we really got him to bottom line. So that's one of my favorite techniques, is bottom lining your message, getting to the point. His resume was 6 pages long. So I really got him to get clear on his overall story, unique value proposition, key examples. And at the end, like after 2 coaching sessions, he got the offer. And I'm really proud to say that he made a significant increase more of salary, over 6 figures more. And a few months later, he messaged me and told me how our coaching together, getting him to really have more structured answers and bottom lining his message, really made a huge difference in his interview performance. And now, like, he's interviewing other like software development managers now. And he mentioned how it's so important to have this structure there. Okay. Next is that you want to showcase that you are a high performer with high potential and high standards. Okay, so this is really showcasing that top talent piece. Okay, so how do you showcase that you're a high performer? So you can talk about awards, promotions, recognition. If you were like recognized as like the top 5%, top 10% of people at your company, or out of like hundreds of people, you were in like the top 10 or 20 percentile, you want to list that in your resume or talk about that in an interview as well. The high potential piece is to showcase how you've been able to, let's say, have that progression in your career, that fast track, or that you've been put into a leadership development program, or you're receiving, let's say, executive coaching, or you have been assigned to, let's say, special projects or confidential projects. That's really showcasing that your company is invested in you and grooming you as well. So that's the high potential piece. High standards. So I know this is also one of the Amazon leadership principles, is to, have insisting high standards. This ties back to that whole above and beyond, and constantly striving for excellence and continuous improvement there. And so this is where you want to talk about how even throughout your life and career, how you're constantly like learning, evolving, stretching out of your comfort zone, doing things differently. Okay, so you got to tell some of those interesting stories here. This could also be, how you overcome failure as well, right? Like Amazon loves hearing failure stories, but it's also through like how have you stretched, out of your comfort zone, how you overcome failure, learn from the lesson, and to do better next time, right? Those are some what we call like the hero stories, how you turn things around that they love hearing, right? So that's something to keep in mind there. The next is the insider insights through informational interviews. So I talked about the whole research piece, but this, it's been specifically is really getting more insider information by actually talking to people who work at these companies, right? So you want to talk to people who work in your specific target area, people who are involved with recruiting, or those who are recruiters, because that's going to give you some really good insights of their day-to-day responsibilities are like, what the culture is like, what the hiring process is like. The more intel that you can get, the better position you will be, because this is going to help you with having more meaningful type of conversations there. So I'll give you an example. I just had another client last week who was interviewing for a leadership development program manager role in the IT department. And so the job entailed recruiting for engineering new grads and managing, supporting these new grads throughout their rotations in the company. So it had recruitment, talent development, and also working with senior management as well. So she did tons of informational interviews by talking to people in the program, talking to people who are managing that program, and talking to people who are part of the company as well to get different intel. And that helped her craft her 30, 60, 90-day plan. The director, like the hiring manager, was really impressed with that. So this is what I call that next level. If you really want to differentiate, in order for you to put together even a customized 30, 60, 90-day plan, you need to be able to get some of these insider insights to put yourself in that competitive position there. Okay. The last one is the P, is having that passion for tech, progressive career, and to practice presenting. So I'm going to break this down for you. So if you're going to be targeting these top tech companies, you really need to have a passion for technology. Even if you don't really have, let's say, a passion like being like a tech nerd, you need to at least have an interest in the industry. Like even when I first graduated, I got into working in the telecommunications industry at TELUS, and I didn't really have a passion for tech, but over time, like I really grew a passion for it. And you really want to understand what it's like working in a very fast-paced, demanding environment and have an interest in the trends, the products. You got to read up about it as well. Okay. That progressive career, which I talked about earlier, is to really showcase how you've grown as a leader in your career, how you've grown and taken on more responsibilities, taken on more complex projects, solving more complex problems. How has your scope of responsibilities increased as well, and how you've grown as a leader, okay? Companies love seeing that, like, and especially, when I was recruiting for whether at Google or other these companies there, is they want to see the progression you've had in your career. And it's all through that storytelling of how you convey the scope of your work out there. Lastly, which is practice presenting. I can't emphasize this enough. I've been doing tons of interview prep right now with my clients, and there is a difference from between those who are thinking or preparing of what they think they're going to say versus what they're actually going to say. So if you can actually spend time not only just preparing for what you want to say in your answers, but to actually have time to practice with a friend, a coach, or a family member, and to do some mock interviews, that will make a huge difference, because you're going to become more clear, more confident, more compelling, and subconsciously it's just going to be in you. So you're going to sound more natural as well. That's going to make a huge difference. I've seen the clients who have been getting offers the last 6-7 weeks. Those who are getting offers are those who have actually done mock interviews, the prep, the rigorous research to really differentiate and stand out. Okay. Okay, yeah, some of you asked if you're going to be getting the recording. I know this is being recorded, so you will be getting the recording. I think and they're going to follow up with you as well to be posted on the YouTube channel there. Okay, I won't be sharing the slides, but if you get the recording, you'll see the slides there. Okay, so that's a wrap of the leadership principles in terms of how to really get hired into top tech companies like Amazon and Google. I'll share with you some more stories as well if this helps. Even just a couple of years ago, I was helping a new grad for a sales interview for Salesforce. And he didn't have much experience with interviews at all. And so what we did was really just practice, a lot of practice of really how to answer common questions like, why Salesforce? Why this role? Why you? What are you proud of? And then he did tons of research about the company as well. And then just through that prep, like that's what landed him the job as well there. Okay. I had another client last year, CFO, an executive level client who got hired into a smaller tech company, but it was one of a growing tech company, software company, and it was 6 months of support that I provided him. We optimized his resume, his LinkedIn profile, got really clear on his brand, had a huge a plan in terms of strategic networking of who are the right recruiters to connect with, who are the people in his network to connect with as well. So we did tons of research and preparation. And at the end, when he landed the company there, he had over like a 6-figure salary increase as well. So my point here is that if you're looking to get hired in these top tech companies, you need to treat it as like a project that you're really going to dedicate your time to it as well. You can't just wing it. I had a candidate that I interviewed, when I was at Google. He was winging his interview, and I still remember it to this day because he was just not prepared, not polished at all. And he actually admitted to me at the end that he was winging the interview just to see what his chances or odds are. And obviously he didn't move forward because he was not prepared at all there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you some more information, see if we have time to answer a few questions as well. So if you're interested in working with me, I do have a program that's coming up in the fall here called the Ultimate Job Search Bootcamp, which is an accelerated bootcamp program here. It includes 6 weekly group coaching calls, training and practicing calls, including networking and mock interviews. So that's something, one of my signature events that I do is giving you the opportunity to network with others and really practice through Zoom. There's also like a private Facebook group where we'll hold weekly Q&A office hours and tips as well. This is where I'm going to be communicating with everyone and providing all the resources. You're also going to get review and feedback on your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, and elevator pitch. These are the essential documents to really differentiate and stand out. So I'll give you my expert advice and feedback on how to improve. And then you also get access to 6 online courses as well. Okay. So this will start on September 8th till October 13th. I'm also going to provide additional 6 weeks of job search support post live calls as well through our Facebook group. So if this is something you're interested in, I would love for you to email me at info@mymarketability.com, message me, and I can send you more information, and we can set up a time to chat further as well there to see if you're a good fit. Okay. Most of the time, I do a lot more one-on-one coaching, which is my signature program that I've been doing for the last 9 years. But lately, I've been getting a lot more inquiries, so I decided to also offer a group program. And I know September and October timeframe is usually the busiest recruiting hiring season. So I wanted to provide this opportunity boot camp to help people accelerate their job search success there. Okay, if you want to learn more, come on over to visit my website at www.mymarketability.com. You can opt in to get a free 10-day job search mastery challenge. So this is going to help you elevate your game with regards to your job search there. It's free, so feel free to opt into that. You can also follow or connect with me on LinkedIn just by looking up Diana YK Chan, where I share pretty much daily content on anything related to career and job search. And feel free to also check out my YouTube channel at My Market Ability, where I have tons of also free videos and webinars on how to elevate your game for your job search there. Okay, so I'll take a moment to answer some questions if there is. If there is some questions, I'll spend about 5 minutes or so to answer questions here. Any questions? Let me see here. All right, so there's one question here. The most jobs I see on LinkedIn Indeed need 4 to 5 years experience. As a new grad, I have about 1 year, including my co-op and capstone. Hence, I'm not able to apply for the jobs, but there seems to be no roles available to gain those 5-year experience. Can you advise, please? Okay, so my usual rule of thumb is that if you have 80% of that experience, you should apply. But if you are a new grad, like 1 year experience, and the roles that you're looking is 4 to 5 years, it's probably not the best fit there. I think one thing what you can do is really to get around that is to do more networking, is to contact people, there's companies there. I think that's another way to get around it. But if you have only 1 year experience going for 4 to 5 years, it may not make sense. Now, on the flip side, if let's just say a job posting requires 10 plus years of experience in an area and you let's say have 7 years, that's different because you'd already have like solid, let's say 7, 8 years experience that I would say to go for it, even though it requires, let's say 10 plus years of experience there. Okay. The main difference is if you're going for like an entry-level role versus a mid-level position, the leveling is different. So it doesn't make sense if you're going for a different level role when you don't have enough experience. Now, I have seen people who get next-level roles if they have a very specific skill set. So I'll give you an example. I recently had a client who's in professional services in finance. So it's a consulting at a professional service firm. And she got hired with a fintech company originally for a more junior level role. But when she went into the interview, she was able to demonstrate her leadership, her expertise, her skill set, and a brand new role was created for her for Director of Finance and Strategic Projects. So that's like next level. Like at the company, she was at the senior manager level, but because this is a smaller fintech company, she got that next level here. Similar to this other client of mine who was a team lead in an IT, he was interviewed for a senior manager IT role, and he was interviewing that, and at the end, he got an offer at the manager level instead of senior manager level, just because he hasn't had enough manager level experience, but still he had a unique skill set that the employer wanted to interview him. And at the end, he still got a promotion at the manager level versus a senior manager level there. Okay, so that would be the difference. Okay, so let me see. What's another question here? Dina, how can a finance professional of 8 years beat competition in this aggressive job market and reposition when they do not have the IT skills yet? Do you have a strategy for positioning people in tech companies without most of the IT skills required? For example, for non-IT roles in tech. Absolutely, Dina. So I work with a lot of people who go into IT companies, but not necessarily IT roles. Like that's actually my area of specialty, like sales, marketing. And so for here, what you want to think about is really essentially your area of specialty within finance. Like what's really the knowledge of expertise that you have within finance here. And you want to maybe think of like, have you worked on projects related to transformation or IT or anything that has a bit of the tech related? If you don't, then you really want to talk about how you've worked on, let's say, strategic projects or things that are high priority to showcase that, okay? But you don't necessarily need to have IT skills to work in a IT company. That's really important for me to highlight here. Like I literally just had a client who was in finance, look at the bank, in strategy and operations, and she got found by Google. Okay, so to me, what's more important is how you're positioning yourself as, are you a leader? Are you a high performer? Are you someone with high potential? Are you a curious learner? Are you able to demonstrate that you have an interest in this industry? Are you hungry for that? That's more important there, okay? Let me see, what's the next question here? What to do when you see there is less job posting related to your position? That's a good question. So, I mean, obviously this is where it depends. I don't know what area that you're in there. But if you're in an area that really has no position, I mean, this is part of where the networking comes in there. But I think this goes back to strategy, to be honest. So it's beyond just looking for positions online. So just to let you know, there are tons of jobs that are not even posted online that are being recruited for. Right. I had a very senior executive level client. It took her quite some time, a year to find something just because she was at that senior executive level. But when she got the opportunity, she was pivoting to a different industry. The opportunity was uncovered through conversations. It was through these networking conversations he had with multiple people within the organization to uncover that opportunity. Okay. So if you're just looking for jobs online, that's just one avenue. You really need to think about expand your search of looking for opportunities or even uncovering opportunities, hidden opportunities that are not even posted yet, so that you'll be top of mind when something does come up there. Okay. Another, one of the popular ways that someone talked about I forgot his last name, Austin, if someone want to post it, he talks about the VVP, value validation project. So if you don't have, let's say, skills or experience in that particular area, you can demonstrate your potential by showcasing how you can solve a problem in their particular area there, to showcase how you can add value. Okay. One thing I want to talk about, because I've been doing a lot of interview prep here, is the difference between talking about your past experience of what you've done versus what can you actually do for a job, right? So I have a lot of clients right now who are pivoting into, let's say, a role that they traditionally didn't work in or into a new area. While you can talk about your past experience that could be relevant, to really showcase you're a good match is that you got to showcase you really understand the job, understand the scope of work. What are the different areas of responsibilities and how are you going to be successful at it? Even if you don't have all the answers, you want to take your best guess in terms of how you're going to approach these problems to showcase that you're confident. Okay, let's just face it. I think right now with things are changing and all that, a lot of times the problems that people are faced with, we've never dealt with before. So you want to showcase how you would approach something like this. Like, what is your methodology and how you'll solve the problem there. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. I know we're about ending time here. Okay, great question here. Yulin asks, for behavior question, how to make the answer both logical and interesting? Okay, how do you make it logical and interesting? So to make it logical, the way I would suggest is really map out your key points first. Okay, instead of typing it all out, I would recommend like follow the framework, the CAR model, and to literally map it out step by step. I just had a client right now. He knows that he tends to be long-winded. So we had a session on bottom lining his messaging, and we just practice on bottom lining. So think of like a headline statement of what is that interesting soundbite or punchline that you want to highlight. Okay. And then from there, you elaborate it and talk about the steps and what the outcome is. And so one of the exercises he did was actually he mapped it out on a spreadsheet. He had these long-winded answers in his resume. And then he had a column called like bottom lining, which is the technique that I teach. And he really bottom line, like, what is the key message that you're trying to tell here? Okay. And then have another column on like, how would you rewrite this in a resume that is more clear, more crisp, and more concise? Okay. So it's a practice. It's not something you can just hit home like the first. You really need to practice like multiple times to really get comfortable with bottom lining the messaging there. Okay. Okay. How could I utilize my past work experience and transferable skills when re-entering the job market after my completion of a computer system technician diploma? Okay, so this is pretty common, Robert. So you have past work experience that's transferable, and you just finished essentially a diploma there, right? So I see this a lot, whether people's completing like a master's and all that. At the end of the day, to be honest, it's all positioning, how you're going to sell yourself. Okay, so one thing what a lot of people don't tend to do is that they just list out like what they've done. But I want to encourage you to really think about like what is the need, what's really important to employer, and start repositioning, writing in the voice of how an employer in terms of their needs there. Okay, think about what's important to them. How is your computer system technician diploma relevant to the type of role that you're going for? So that example I mentioned earlier, my IT auditing client, how he's completing like his master's in like analytics there. He talked about how that has helped him to become better with data-driven decision-making in his job. Okay, and how that is beneficial in him helping him with making decisions faster, quicker, and like making it better for the company as well there. Okay, so you really want to think about the benefits. So one thing I want to challenge you to think about is what are the benefits of what you have to offer? So there's a saying in sales, features tell, benefits sell. Okay, so the features are your strengths, your experience and skills. The benefits is really the so what. What is really the benefit of all these skills and experience that you have? When you can really position the benefit in terms of, let's say, you can help them make more money, decrease cost, mitigate risk, increase sales or clients. That's what employers love to hear. Okay, when you can convey that, then they know that you are a valuable hire. Right? Because when you think about a lot of even these top tech companies, I'm talking more like the mid-level, senior level positions, they're at least six-figure paying jobs, right? Like these companies pay a lot. And so you need to showcase how hiring you is worth the investment. So you have to think about from a metric standpoint, like how are you really helping them improve and grow their business? Okay, so that's really important there. Okay, so I think that's it in terms of time for questions. If you want to connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Message me or send me an email at info@mymarketability.com. I'm happy to answer your questions there. Okay, if you are interested in chatting further, you can also, or interested in like my service as well, you can also book a consultation call on my website there. I am currently booked till mid-September, as I am taking some time off next week there. Okay. All right, so I hope you found this helpful, and I will love to connect with you further via LinkedIn. I'll stick around a little bit for some networking as well there. Okay.